Hey everyone, thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of Dungeon Jedi Masters. Today I'm actually going to be building an encounter based off the Ewok monster that I built last episode. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through and take a look at my party. So I've got 6 PCs. We're going to take a look at the different classes and things that they've got going with them. We're going to take a look at the level of challenge or the challenge rating we should have with our monster group just to see kind of how to balance that. I'm going to give you a couple tips and tricks on how I do that. And then we're going to go through and pick our monsters and kind of take a look at each monster and see kind of what it brings to the table. Before we jump into that, though, a couple things. Definitely thank you guys all for the views and attention from the last videos. We definitely appreciate it. Definitely check out some of our other content on the YouTube channel, Dungeon Jedi Masters, or check out our podcast. We put a podcast out every Tuesday, generally in the morning, so check us out. Right now, we've got one that we just posted on Force and Tech Casting, so some great stuff on there. Check it out. And definitely, I'm going to include a link to this in the YouTube comments or description, but we actually are posting a survey too. We want to see what you guys want or what you want to see from us, so take a look at that survey, fill it out. We want to make sure we're providing the content you guys are looking for. So that'll be in the description. Definitely appreciate that if you guys could give us some info there. But perfect. But today we're going to actually be going into building an encounter. Now, this is going to be a pretty light episode. This is just going to be kind of building around that Ewok I built. We're going to have a podcast in the future that goes in depth on encounter building. But this will just be a little bit of a teaser to kind of just go through and kind of connect it with that Ewok, and then I'll kind of provide some of my tips and tricks and just a few things I picked up over the years with DMing on this. So we're going to switch over. So you're going to see this is just a little bit about my PCs. One of the big things I always recommend when building an encounter is to take a look at your PCs just so you can kind of know what they can do and what challenges and things may be fun to mess with them on. So I've got a six-party group with this table. I've got them listed. There's a couple of this group is really well synergized too. So I've got two tables. The other table is really good, but they don't have kind of that same synergy. This one, they've got a really kind of well made and well put together group. So we'll kind of touch on each class a little bit. So I've got one of them who's a Wookiee augmented berserker. Super tanky, super hard to hit, ton of HP. He's definitely with the augmented and berserker. They've got a ton of opportunity to grapple and throw, and he's got shield master, so he can kind of push and knock people prone. So a lot of different things he can do. Definitely one of the challenges to build for too, because he can take so much damage that if I try to build something to kind of put him in jeopardy, I can almost wipe the party. But it's definitely one of those ones that kind of makes life interesting. He doesn't do too much damage though, which makes life a little easier, but he can definitely lock up some of the enemies. So something you always have to be a little prepared for when dealing with an augmented berserker, especially if they're a Wookiee too. I've also got a Togruta Way of the Sage Counselor. This is another one that makes building a little challenging. Way of the Sage is really good for healing. They get a ability called Preserve Life, which can just dump HP on a party. So it's one of those ones that could really change the flow of an encounter. One day he actually missed a session. He's usually one of the more consistent ones with attending. He missed a session and like they almost wiped on a group that kind of an encounter I didn't think was gonna be that difficult. It was just one of those ones to kind of get him in the dungeon. So it's really it makes a world of difference when you have a good healer on the team. We also have a Chiss Explorer Scholar. Definitely one. These guys just get a lot of bonuses. Like they can really buff the party with from saving throws to helping them miss hit attacks they may have missed, and even just adding a little bit of damage with their analyze ability. It just really gives you a ton of different things that they can really do and contribute to the party. So they're definitely one you have to keep an eye on as well. Uh, Chiss Arm Tech Engineer. That's actually Todd from the other Dungeon Jedi Master. That's his character. Ton of DPS, some versatility too with that tech casting. The arms techs are definitely a fun one if you want to be able to do some good damage but still have casting abilities too. So one to check out, and there's definitely one to keep in mind when building an encounter for. The other one too that we've got is a Twi'lek Lethality Operative. So ton of DPS with that sneak attack, especially because they picked up because I've been DMing this table for about almost a year now, so they picked up some good items on the way. The Twi'lek picked up an enhanced I forgot the name of the thing, but it basically allows a sneak attack die to go up by one. So rather than a D6, it rolls a D8, and that can just stack damage. Especially at these guys are level 9 now. I think by the time they get to this fight, they'll be level 10. So it just really throws in a ton of damage for it. And then we also have a Keldor, Path of the Focus Sentinel. Sentinel's a great class. He can do a good bit of DPS with his melee attacks, but he also has a lot of force options and just different things to do. So it just really keeps you on your toes and building out an encounter for these guys because they've just got so many different options. A lot of them have heals too outside of the counselor. I know the Arms Tech has a couple, and I believe the Keldor has a couple too. So just something that keeps you on your toes. You got to know who's going to be able to heal, who's got the DPS, what that Wookiee's going to do, and how he's going to lock up one of your guys. So definitely something that I always got to keep in mind when building my encounters out. So now we've got those. One thing I always recommend doing is you can either go to the DMG or you can go to this website. I'm going to have this in there too. It allows you to kind of calculate how much XP or challenge rating you're going to have to do to kind of give your characters a bit of a run for their money in the fight. So you're gonna see I've got 6 characters in there. As I said, this fight's gonna probably take place when they're level 10. But something that I always do for the Star Wars 5e system, especially for this group, where they've got enough magical items that I feel like they're probably stronger than their level. I treat them like they're a level higher. So you got definitely something I'd recommend taking a look at for your group. I've run 2 tables. So one group's level 9 right now. The other group had just got level 5. The level 5 one I don't always give them a level higher because they still don't have as many magic items or enhanced items, I should say. But I always run them with deadly, and sometimes if I want a bigger fight, I do give them the level higher. But for my higher level one that's got all these different items and abilities and such and such that they've acquired over the year, they're always a level higher. And also, no matter what level you're running or what you're doing with that, run deadly. Uh, with this system, it's unless you're gonna have like a good like long session where you can just keep kind of grinding them down with hards. It's easier to run a couple deadlies versus trying to have to do so many hards, especially with just how strong characters can be with SW5E. So for this one, we're going to run them with 6 characters at level 11. That's going to say it's going to be about 21,000 XP for deadly. And this is something we're going to touch on a little bit more in the podcast, but I'm just going to highlight this real quick. I feel like D&D 5e had a misnomer with the way they went with the challenges, because for new DM it was confusing to me, and for a lot of people I've talked to, it just kind of throws you off the way they put this. So I'm going to go through, just give a brief description for each level. We're going to touch more on this in the podcast, so if you want more of it, stay tuned to our cast. But easy is like child's play. It's not going to really challenge them. It's not going to burn too much of their resources. They'll be able to probably take it out in a round or two if you come up with an easy encounter. That can be fun sometimes if you really want the group to flex. Just got to feel like they're really badasses. But for most games, it's really not going to do too much. Kind of the same with medium. Mediums can be a little bit more challenging and take a little bit more time, maybe a couple more rounds or a little bit more XP. But it's not going to challenge them too much, especially if they're coming off a long rest or even a short rest. They're going to have all their stuff. They're going to just go through it pretty quickly without even using too much of their resources. And then that's kind of where I get into that misnomer piece, because it's not really a medium encounter. I mean, if you follow like the adventuring day, and that's actually something I should put up too. But if you had that adventuring day and kind of calculate their XP out for that day, you would have to have like I think 8 medium encounters to be a challenge for a party, and at least I don't have time for that. I don't know if a lot of other DMs, if you run like 8-hour sessions, you may be able to fit in 8 medium encounters into the session, but that may even get a little bit of fight fatigue for the players. So I never recommend medium unless you're giving them kind of a fight they can flex on, or you just get some other piece to the encounter, like there's something else you're going to be doing with that encounter as well. Um, Hard is a good rating. So hard, and this is something that they want to think about too. So hard is going to use some resources. It's going to be challenging. Generally, you're not going to see a character drop on a hard. There's the opportunity for it, but you're not going to see a character kind of fall unconscious unless something kind of out of the normal happens, or they've been kind of going through a dungeon or doing multiple fights in that day, and this is a hard encounter to go with it. Uh, forgetting my numbers now, but I think it's 4 hard encounters for a day, 4 or 5 hard encounters for a day. That's something I'll look up and put on the sub too, and we'll talk a little bit more on that for the podcast as well. But definitely hard's a good way to go. I usually do deadly, but hard, if you have enough of them, can be challenging. Burn those resources, get your players on the ropes a little bit, and just kind of give them that a little bit of a threat there too. But deadly is the way I usually go. If you can run 3 deadlies for a long rest, give them a short rest or two in between, you're going to get your players on the ropes. You're going to have them burn their resources. You're going to kind of maybe knock a player or two down to unconscious. It just really kind of give them that challenge they're looking for and really make it a little more fun of a counter for them. So that's just a brief spiel. I'm going to go more in depth, and I'll have more numbers on that for the podcast. But just something that I always like to think about. I think it's one of the biggest confusing points for DMs when making an encounter, just because it's just not named right, in my opinion. I don't know what I changed the names to, but I just feel like when you see the hard and deadly, it just throws people off, and they just don't kind of build the encounter the way they probably should be with that. Uh, but definitely check out the in the DMG, and this is just the regular 5e DMG. Check out the Adventuring Day statistics too. Look up how much XP your party should have in a Adventuring Day, and even if you're doing milestones XP, I do milestones too. The XP for for the fights just gives you a good reference on how difficult that fight's going to be and how many fights to throw at them. So you don't have to use XP for your leveling to use XP as a way to calculate the difficulty of a fight. Because yeah, I don't track XP either, but for coming up with an encounter, it's really hard to get it on the dot without going overboard or making it too weak without using XP as a system. But now that we know that we're going to have about a 21,000 XP, we can go a little over, a little under. Definitely fine with that. We're actually go through and pick out some of our monsters. So first monster we're going to bring in is kind of the guy I'm building an encounter around, our Ewoks. Let's put him back in there. So this is the Ewok we built during our session, our last YouTube video. So that Ewok bounty hunter. Didn't change much. I did add a net. So I was talking to somebody else and just kind of thinking, I think he needs something else. So I gave him an enhanced net, plus 10 to hit. It'll restrain a creature. They have to use their action to make a DC 16 strength check to get out. So I think that'll just kind of give him a little more of that Ewok feel. And also just make it a little more interesting too with kind of the things he can do. So for this guy, he's got a challenge rating of 10, XP of 5,900. So what I'd like to do for what I'm just making my notes, usually I don't have the PCs in there, but I put the PCs in here for this one just so you guys can take a look at it. But I like to put out which monsters I'm going to use and their XP associated with them, just so I can have that handy. So I'm using the Ewok, and he's going to have 5,900 XP due to being a challenge rating 10. So that's our first monster. So this being an Ewok, he's an Ewok bounty hunter. So I want to build around him some bounty hunters. I want to see if I can find some cool things from Endor that he can kind of bring with him just to kind of keep that flavor going. And even with some of like the other kind of guys assisting him, I want him to kind of have that for lack of a better way to put it, that wild feel. So I'm going to pick some of those species that are a little bit more nature attuned, a little bit more wild attuned. So something like Wookiees or just kind of things like that that can kind of go with it and complement the feel for them. So you kind of get a good balance mixed for it. So we've got him going. This is another thing I'm going to put in the link. So there's 2 different areas for Star Wars 5e currently to go and look for monsters. Or out 3 different areas. So the Discord for sure, check. There's a lot of things pinned there. But then you've got the Scum and Villainy book, which is our monster manual, which there's a lot of things in there, and there's going to be more. There's going to be an update coming in the next couple weeks or month or so, with a lot of things coming from the Discord onto that book. So definitely a good spot to start. And there's also Fitzo's Codex. I'll have included a link to that in the YouTube description, but that's where a lot of the monsters that haven't made it to S&V yet are located, and some really good designs and options for you as you're building your encounter. So I'll put both those links in there just so you can kind of find them, but I usually use both when I'm building an encounter. Uh, so yeah, first thing we're going to do, and I kind of scouted out a couple monsters I want to include. Uh, so one of the big things I wanted to have in there is something from Endor, outside of the Ewoks. So uh, this is kind of the Scum and Villainy manual. So I was just looking through, and one of the things I found were the Gorax. So let's search through there and get over there. So let me get you a little better view of this guy. So this is a species that's kind of humanoid and frequent indoor. That are kind of native to indoor, I should say. They are semi-sentient, it sounds like, but they're just kind of big things. Usually they fight and hunt Ewoks. But for this guy, he's a badass Ewok bounty hunter. So I'm gonna kind of give him a little bit of a Michonne feel from Walking Dead. And he's going to have two Goraxes that he's got chained up with him that he likes to bring on hunts to help him take down things. So we're going to give two Goraxes. We take a couple looks at some of their skills too. So one of the cool things with these guys is like they're just terrible stench apparently. So if you get somebody that in there, they're going to make a DC 15 Constitution saving throw or be poisoned. So poison is going to give you a disadvantage on your attack. So kind of a good way to give some of my melee fighters a little bit of a challenge when they get up close, just to because most of my guys are going to run in, especially the Wookiee augmented berserker or my Keldor Sentinel. They like to get up and close, so the Wookiee's probably going to pass this, but something to give him a little bit of a challenge, make it a bad dice roll. The Keldor may not, so he may have to suffer disadvantage on his attacks when he comes up there. If they do succeed, though, they're immune for an hour. So it's kind of a one or done one, but each of them will have it. So definitely something that'll give a little bit of challenge. Just put that through. Nice thing too, though, is they've got great damage. So they've got the stomp attack, and they've got their great club. So they can really come through and put some good damage out there, even with being a lower challenge rating. So they'll give a good bit of challenge. So we're going to say two Goraxes we're throwing in the mix for the party. So let me get that in there. Uh, and what I like to do too when making that, so if I've got two in there, I just include a little X and a 2, and then the total XP for both. So two Goraxes are 2300 XP apiece, so that'd be 4600 XP for those guys. So they're what I wanted to include on there. So they just I think a little fun. I like to always kind of bring some of that flavor from Endor with there too. So there wasn't too many Endoran ones I could pick for, but I thought they'd be cool. Just really kind of show how badass this Ewok is, and he's lugging around something that usually would hunt his people, and he's turned them into his hunters. So definitely one I thought got to give a cool touch to it. Another thing I wanted to include in there, so I've wanted to just have some kind of wild species in there. So one of the ones I thought would be a cool fit is to have a Wookiee. So I went through the Wookiee classes, and let me get us over to the Wookiee areas. So there's a couple different classes on there. So you've got the Wookiee engineer, which I didn't think it'd be too kind of wasn't what I was looking for this one. But then we get this guy, the Wookiee hunter. This is what I was looking for the class, for kind of a supporting guy. He looks badass. It looks like he's really gonna be able to kind of help that Ewok out with his hunting group. And he's also lower CR than the Ewok too, which is something I wanted to kind of make sure that most of those people would be lower CR since he's supposed to be the kind of the badass, the leader of the group. So uh, the Wookiee Hunter, he's a CR6, 2300 XP. He's got a couple cool things with him. Big thing is Brute, so extra damage die when he hits, makes it nice. Precise attacker, which is going to be fun. So if you get 18 through 20, it crits. So he's going to be able to do some good damage on that too. So that's going to be fun. You can roll some 40 10s when he hits. And then if he surprises them, he gets to do an extra. Yeah, he has advantage on that first attack if he surprises, and if it hits, it's a critical attack. So kind of like the assassinate feature from the lethality operators. So he'll be fun. Nice thing with him, he's got some ranged options as well. But just just a good balanced one, and I'm not sure how I'm going to set this encounter up, if it's going to be a surprise one or not, but he's got some good stealth with it too. The Ewok has pretty good stealth as well, so this will just be kind of a good setup for them and give us some good options. So we're going to do one Ewok hunter for this party. And that's at 2300. So we're kind of building that CR up. Remember, we still have to get to 21,000, or at least 21,000, or around that area. So those were the ones I found out of the Scum and Villainy manual that I wanted included. There's a couple other ones out of Fitzo's Codex that I wanted to include. One of them being, since this is the Ewok Bounty Hunter, I thought he'd have some bounty hunter friends. So this is actually a block I made too. So this is one of the ones I wanted to include in there. So the bounty hunters are a good one. They're a good challenge rating too. They've got some cool options that could really challenge your party. So definitely one if you guys. It's on Fitzo's Codex. Check it out for your campaign. They've got some tech casting. They've got a cool carbonite blast feature. They've got some cool damage with their weapons. One of the fun things I included on there too is I gave them a disintegration option. So he has got a disruptor rifle too. So a disruptor, if you bring him down to zero, the creature must make a DC 12 Constitution save. On a failed save, it's disintegrated. It dies immediately. Body gone. Can't be brought back. So definitely something you can use with your party too. Uh, One of those ones. It just kind of gives a little, if you want to up the stakes, especially with the body hunter, the disintegrations. It's kind of an in Star Wars thing to do. So I'm gonna include this guy. I'm gonna try and flavor him, and when I get to my party, is a little bit more wild too. I haven't decided what species. Maybe I'll just make him a Wookiee bounty hunter too. But for this, it's just going to use that standard bounty hunter class. Challenge rate 7, 2900 XP. We're going to have two of these guys, especially that Carbonite Blast. We'll be able to get some good DPS on there and hopefully give the Wookiee and the Healer a little bit of trouble with keeping everybody up and running. So we're going to put that in there. And then so we're getting close to where we need to be. So I've only got one more monster. I'm going to, oops, didn't mean to put Wookiee Hunter twice. So I want to get that. There we go. So we got that. There's one more monster. This is going to be from the Codex as well. So I wanted another kind of wild creature. I thought I did use the Wookiees. And I was just kind of going through and looking to see what we had in here. And then one of the things I found, and make sure I spell it right, the Shistavinin Assault Specialist. It's kind of almost like the Star Wars version of a werewolf type dude. So I looked at him and he thought he'd be a good one to run in there. He's based off a fighter, so he's got a lot of attacks. He's got that pushing attack too. But the good thing is he does some good DPS and has a lot of different options to do that DPS with too. So I wanted to include him in there. He's got a good health pool too. So this will be something to keep the party on their toes, as well as get some good damage off for the party. And one thing too, this is something I didn't mention before, and we're going to go into this more in the encounter building episode. But as a DM, I've done this before. Try to keep your abilities for the monsters relatively similar or simple. Because I've had like try to be like these crazy encounters where there's like so many different monster abilities, and a lot of times they even complement each other. But then when you're actually running the game, it's hard to remember all the different things they can do because you don't want to be the DM that's taking forever on your turns. So I try to keep them simple, or have one guy that has some crazy stuff, but the rest of the guys either support it or kind of similar or simple, just so I'm not spending so much time on my turn thinking. So it's definitely something if you may be better at remembering and kind of multitasking on that than I am. So if you can do it, more power to you. But for me, I just found it's a little easier just to keep it easy, keep it simple. That's why all these guys are doing pretty similar things. There's nothing too crazy, not too much casting I have to remember for those guys. I think the bounty hunter is the only one that has casting, so it just keeps it easy and makes my life a little easier too, and keeps that kind of game pace flowing for my table too. So perfect. Now we've got that guy in there. We're gonna add him into my little list. And then let me see. So he's 5,000 XP. So let me get him in that list. And he's gonna be my last one. Oops, and I keep doing that. I think he's not copying today. There we go. Perfect. So we've got. So will that be so 4 Six or five, six, so seven different people that we find. So they'll outnumber the party, which keeps it interesting sometimes. They all have a decent health pool too, which should be pretty fun. So I've done the math already, so you should see my calculator now. So I added them all together. So we came up a little bit higher than 21,000, so about 23,000 for this encounter. I haven't decided if it's going to be the only, like the first encounter of their day, if there may be something else they encounter before getting to them. I haven't figured that piece out yet. But at least now we've got the monsters built in. We know how much XP it's going to be, and this is something I usually do too, just so you can kind of make it easy in your notes. So it's going to be 23,600 XP, and I like to include that too, just at the top, just so they can kind of see that quickly. And sometimes I have to mix up fights or throw a different fight than I planned in. This way I know what the XP is and kind of track that for their daily total. Uh, I may do an episode two just in trying to show you my notes. I've kind of gone through a couple different ways. I don't think I'm an expert at this. It's something I'm trying to improve on myself, but it'll be something fun just to kind of start a discussion and go through and kind of show you some of the different things I do for that too. But this is usually at least I have one sheet on there with uh, kind of people that are they're going to fight, set up like this. People that are important to the plot, areas that are important to the plot, just things like that. So I remember, especially character NPC names. I'm terrible at remembering NPC names I come up with, so I usually try to have a sheet with anybody I think they'll may encounter, so I can use their name versus coming up with a name. There's one character in one of my campaigns who's had three different names just because I've forgotten them before, so that's something I struggle with as a DM. But this was the build today. I'll shoot a include a little blurb too in the comments with just the different monsters that I've used and where you can find them if you want to use them for your campaign. But I hope this was useful. Definitely, if there's any comments or anything you want to have more questions on, feel free to put that in the comments section. I'd be happy to read through those and answer any questions. And definitely, if there's anything you want to see, check out our survey. We can get those up and running for you, as well as our different podcast. Each Tuesday we'll be up in a new podcast up, and I want to have at least one YouTube video up a week too. And I know Todd's working on some other ones too, so you should at least see at least once a week or twice a week a video coming from us. Definitely let me know what video you want to see next. I love encounter building and monster building, but if you want to see something different, let me know. But definitely thank you all for joining me. I really appreciate the interest, and may the force be with you.